Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, February 13th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy. And Patrick, first question, obviously Billy Price is moving from guard to center. He'll be a 4-year starter for the Buckeyes this fall after starting for 3 years at guard. Do you anticipate this will be, somewhat rocky transition for Billy at first, or do you think this will be a smooth transition for a guy like him?
It should be a smooth transition. I mean, he's a guy who's taken some time there. He, like Pat Elflein before him, as you said, a veteran. He's seen snaps there in practice as kind of a backup. And I would envision it would be something similar. The one kind of hesitation I have is we've seen Billy with quite a few false starts in his day on the line. And that's something you obviously don't want out of your center. Now I think with him making the calls on the line and everything like that, maybe that'll help improve that. He'll be the one, snapping the ball and everything. So, I think it should be fine. He's obviously the most veteran guy, the leader of this line. He's the most familiar person with JT and all that. So hopefully it'll be fine. I don't know what other option necessarily they have that would be a better scenario, I guess.
We have a pretty lively thread on the front row message board right now, just discussing who might be the breakout players for Ohio State this fall. I mean, one good thing about Ohio State just turning over its roster as much as it does as far as, not just seniors, but of course guys leaving early for the NFL, is we get to see these guys that are top recruits, and there's plenty of chance for playing time. We saw it last year with, Malik Hooker and Marshawn Lattimore kind of coming out of nowhere. Now they're picked as not just, projected as first-round picks, but top 7 picks in the NFL draft. So let's break it down a little bit, Patrick. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Who do you think on the offensive side of the ball would be some breakout players for the Buckeyes?
I think there's a few obvious guys. Benjamin Victor is a name that a lot of people are excited about from the little bit we saw, plus, just his size and potential, what some of the players were saying about him at the end of the season. Demario McCall is a guy that I think fans are really excited for in that H-back role that Curtis Samuel had just from the little bit he did get to play this past year. Obviously it was in, kind of relief time against backups, and so you can't take a ton from it, but it looks like a guy who could be pretty electrifying when the ball's in his hand. So those are the two probably most obvious. I think even a Mike Weber still has the potential to break out a little bit more. In a 1,000-yard back, you don't say that very often, but it was only his first year as a starter. He's a kid who was pretty highly recruited, obviously back and forth between Ohio State and Michigan. So he's a guy I think that could really take his game to the next level. I don't know if he turns into the next Ezekiel Elliott, but can kind of get things going even a step further than he did with the 1,000 yards and I think 9 touchdowns or whatever it was, and really kind of take over this running game and give them a pretty dangerous option there. So those are probably 3 obvious ones offensively, but 3 guys that I think will have an impact. And I even throw Austin Mack's name in there too with that receiver position, just because I think he can do similar things to what Victor might be able to do, and he's a name who, before Ben got on campus and started showing off, the coaches were also very high on.
Yeah, the 2 I have written down are Ben Victor and Demario McCall, so it's going to be fun to watch these guys, and that's it's going to be fun about spring ball, seeing some of these guys come of age. Interestingly, Austin Mack, everybody was talking him up last spring. He still should have been in high school. When I say everybody, like the coaches were talking him up, so it seemed like he was going to play a lot more than he did as a true freshman, but I agree, he's definitely a candidate to be a breakout player as a sophomore. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, who are some breakout players that you see, Patrick?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind for me that isn't, one of the obvious guys is Jordan Fuller. Obviously there's opportunity there. You mentioned Malik Hooker having the breakout year last year, and after just one season of playing going pro. They talked a lot about Jordan Fuller towards the end of the year, stuff that he was doing in practice. And we didn't hear kind of the rumors of interceptions and things like that in practice that we did with Malik Hooker, but I think he's going to step in and play well. I don't know if you replace Malik Hooker's numbers with one guy, but I think Fuller will be a solid option in there, maybe closer to what Von Bell did, which is still very good, rather than what Malik did. I think Nick Bosa, there's a lot of depth on the defensive line, so none of these guys I think will be asked to play a ton of snaps, but obviously he, showed in his freshman season that he can do a lot of the same things his brother can. The potential is there to be that type of player. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field even with the other talent that's on the depth chart. He's an athletic freak. He is, even as a freshman was ready to play from day one. So year two, I think will be even better than year one. Plus it'll help him stay fresh and help the other guys stay fresh with the rotation there. And then I'll just be interested to see what happens at linebacker. Obviously Raekwon McMillan was, the guy in the middle, even in his freshman season. By the end of the year, he was playing a little bit more, I think, than Curtis Grant as they won that national championship. So that's a guy that, whether his numbers lived up to kind of his hype his final year here, I think it's tough to replace. And what they do there and who can kind of fill that leadership role in the middle of the defense, whether it is the middle linebacker or someone else, will be interesting for me to see.
Yeah, I definitely think Jordan Fuller is he will be a breakout player. I'll be surprised if he's not only a starter, but I think he will be a very good player as a first-year starter, as a sophomore. That's putting a lot on him, but I think he will achieve that. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens at one of the corner spots. I think Denzel Ward, really both corner spots. I think Denzel Ward has one of them locked down. He still needs to prove it, but I think it's going to be surprising if Denzel Ward doesn't start. And I think Kendall Sheffield, the JUCO transfer, I think he's going to be the other starter, but he doesn't arrive until March. Hopefully he'll arrive in time for the start of spring ball. I know that's still waiting to be finalized, but yeah, those are a few guys, and you have some other guys that I think are good candidates as well. So it's going to be fun to watch all these guys, like I said, in spring and then into the fall. Let's close with some basketball talk, Patrick. First thing, do you think Trevor Thompson will come back as a fifth-year senior next year? Do you anticipate that he'll go pro?
I think he's certainly going to try, again, as he did last year. I think it's a really good idea what they've got with the NBA and college basketball right now, where you can go kind of test the waters, work out for teams, kind of get evaluated at that level before you make a final decision, before you hire an agent. And Trevor did that last year. Not only do I think that he didn't hear what he wanted and that motivated him, but I think working out at that level and seeing some of the competition there helps him improve. Obviously it's only a couple months of workouts, but I think it showed him things he needed to work out in his game. It made him a better player, and I think we've seen that reflected. There's no reason to think he won't take that route again this year and test the waters. I think he's certainly a better player. Now, whether or not he's really ready for the NBA, I don't know. We've seen in some games this season where he looks like, a star in the making, still not entirely polished, but a guy who I think, when they have that size and ability, NBA teams like that, they don't come around that often, 7-footers. So, I think you can see the potential there. It's the consistency that's been the issue, which is something we can talk about with the whole team. But I think there's no reason to think he won't at least give it a try. And if he gets some better feedback, he may end up hiring an agent and really declaring for the actual draft.
Speaking of 7-foot big men, I don't think there are any 7-foot small men, but 7-foot Ohio State big men. Greg Oden was featured on Outside the Lines Sunday morning, and I believe it was a replay, but I saw it for the first time. I think a lot of people did saw it for the first time this Sunday morning. And, I heard the quotes before of Greg referring to himself as the biggest bust in NBA history. Whether or not he really believes that or if he's just kind of trying to get out ahead of it, who knows, but I credit him for saying that. But he got into that, into the downfall of his basketball career because of injuries. And also, I didn't realize that these quotes were out there. Maybe they were, maybe they were not. But as far as him talking about his battles with alcohol abuse, and I'm just going to read some quotes here. Again, just get your reaction to this. He was refreshingly honest. He's easy to root for. I encourage anybody to see this outside the line piece if they haven't already. I'm sure you can pull it up on the internet. But here's some quotes from Greg Oden. Quote, I drank because I had a bad game, but then I would drink because I had a good game to celebrate. I didn't know how to handle it. It was a situation I was put in, number one draft pick, all these expectations. I know I didn't limit myself when I started drinking, and that's definitely a problem. It is alcoholic. I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. He's talking about now he's mixing some, prescription medication in. Here's a quote from Greg Oden. Quote, nothing but pain pills and alcohol. That's all I had. The lowest point was realizing it took 2 Vicodin, 2 Percocets, and a bunch of drinks just to go to sleep every night. Here's the final quote. I've been through a lot. I guess I can say it's a lot. I'm only 28. I'm still young. I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to be around to be a part of this Ohio State program, end quote. For those who don't know, Greg's at Ohio State, not just finishing his degree, but he's a student assistant coach for the basketball team. Pretty nice student assistant coach there. Patrick, a lot to digest there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it is, like you said, and I believe that was the quote from the guy who did the interview, refreshingly honest. Not many people can envision being the number one pick and the pressure that goes with that, and then having the injuries and stuff on top of that, and not even playing a full season of NBA basketball in a career. So, that's certainly hard to deal with. And it was interesting to hear Greg talk about that. He's a guy that, right about my age, so we were one class apart, and I remember, the whole situation playing out, and I would see him around from time to time, and always was a great guy. It was disappointing just to see how his career went, and that he didn't live up to it, because you think about the guy that went behind him and Kevin Durant and what a career he's had. There was a reason Greg went in front of him, and he could have been that next great 7-footer. I'm talking NBA wise, Olympic teams type of stuff. He certainly had all that potential. And when that all goes south and that's all you've been expecting your whole life, some people don't handle situations like that well. And I think most people would probably handle it poorly. And, it's good to hear that not only has he admitted this and gotten things, going in the right direction now, but he's focused on the right things, back with a group of people that he can trust with Ohio State and a good supporting staff here. He's still got basketball as part of his life, but he's also focusing on his degree and what's next. And I think the program has been good for him, and he's been good for the program. We talked about Trevor Thompson just a minute ago. Greg Oden's been a big part of that transformation. I know Trevor and Micah Potter and David Bell, all the big men at Ohio State, really credit, him for helping them improve. Say what you will about Micah Potter and David Bell right now, but just a chance to work with a guy like that, I think, has been great for them, and I think Thad really likes to have him back. Having seen Greg a handful of times, I think he looks happy, at least happier than you'd see him when he was, sitting on the bench and stuff with the Miami Heat or not in the league at all. So it is an unfortunate situation. It was interesting to hear him, how he kind of reflects upon it, but I'm very happy that he's at least back in a good place and handling his business.
Very well said by Patrick Murphy. Thank you very much, Patrick, and thanks to our listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it and hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.